Do you want to know the most underutilized opportunity in pickleball that can transform your game completely? We're talking about pickleball return of serve. Hitting an effective return of serve in pickleball is critical to your game's ability to earn sideouts and as a result get the serve back so you can once again score points. But how can you master this serve? Well, let's figure it out in today's video. The return of serve in pickleball is just as important as the serve, has the same purpose as a serve. Your game strategy should be to get to the net, and a reliable good return of serve would be deep and ideally to the weakest point of the receiver or best considered position on the court. A good way for a beginner to return a serve is to hit a soft, looping shot that lands close to the tee on the backhand side of the server. This can and often does make it hard for the player to figure out who will take the shot. It also keeps the other team from taking a quick shot. A good serve is a great way to score a lot of points in pickleball, but the return of serve is almost as important. Return of serve rules. There aren't too many rules about the return of serve, but a serve that lands in the right service box must be returned by the right return of server after one bounce. This return of server can pretty much be put anywhere. But how do you hit the return of serve? The following are 5 tips for hitting an effective return of serve in pickleball that will tilt the advantage in your favor. 1. Position yourself when returning a serve. Stand 2 to 3 feet behind the baseline. This is one of the most common mistakes we see, especially when we watch people who are just starting out or are in the middle of their learning. The person who returns the serve usually stands just behind the baseline, maybe an inch or two back. So a deep serve will jam the return of server and force them to hit their return as their weight moves backwards. Instead, you want your weight to move forward for a good return. Number 2, return and run. We also see players make an error when they don't get the non-volley line after the return of serve. And rallies are won at the line where you can't hit the ball. Don't let the team that is serving gain this advantage by not following your return to a non-volley line. If you can't get all the way to the non-volley line after the return, and before the serving team hits your next shot, the third shot, remember to split step just before your opponent hits the ball. Number 3, slow down your return to give yourself more time to get to the non-volley line. The faster the ball comes back, the harder you hit it. So if you hit a return with a lot of speed, you probably won't be able to get all the way through the transition zone before the serving team hits the ball. So you'll probably be stuck in the transition zone, which makes it harder to make shots. Number 4, cut your return so it stays low. When you hit the ball with different spins, you give your opponents different challenges. Nothing is different about the slice return. When you slice the ball back, it stays low to the court, making it harder for your opponent to get their paddle under the ball enough to drop or drive it. Number 5, put the ball deep in the court and in the middle of the court. It makes the serving team's shot longer and harder, and it keeps them farther from the non-volley line, where they'll be able to get a better position on the court. When you hit the ball to the middle, you reduce the chance of making a mistake on the return serve, and the 2 players on the serving team may not know who would hit the third shot. It also cuts down on the angles that the team serving can use to their advantage. But before we talk about more tips, please take a second to like the video and subscribe to our channel so that we can keep bringing more informative pickleball content to you. Your little contribution means a lot to us. Now let's cover some more tips. Tip number 1, learn the different serves so you know how to return to them. Sun Tzu says, "Know thy enemy," in his book, The Art of War. Since pickleball wasn't invented until 1965 and Art of War was written about 2,400 years ago, it's safe to say he wasn't talking about returning serves. But the idea is still the same. If you want to get better at pickleball, you need to know what you're up against. In pickleball, there are 3 main types of serves. 1, high-quality soft serve. 2, serve with power. 3, serve with a soft angle. The goal of the high soft serve is to hit the ball that curves high and deep into your opponent's court, making them move and possibly lose their position. This should set up a third shot that lets the team serving score. The power serve is fast, deep, and on the ground. It's harder to pull off, but it can force your opponent to act quickly and make them more likely to make a mistake. The goal of the soft angle serve is to get your opponent off the baseline and make a path for your third shot. Now that you know that each of the 3 main serves is trying to do, well, let's talk about how to return them. Tip number 2, return the ball deep. No matter what happens in the first few shots and volleys, most points are scored when everyone is near the net. So when you return a serve, you should try to get it close to the baseline of your opponent. This makes your opponent stay back longer than they want to, and it also gives you a chance to move up to the kitchen. Tip number 3, returns that are both high and low. At first glance, it might seem like a mistake to return the ball high and soft, but if you give the ball enough curve and send it deep, your opponent will lose any edge or forward momentum they had. Also, as tip number 2 said, the goal is to get to the kitchen. Getting a high arcing serve back gives you plenty of time to do that. Tip number 4, put yourself in a strong spot. For a strong pickleball position, you and your partner, if you're playing doubles, should stand on the non-volley line with your feet even and ready to move. If you follow the tips above, it shouldn't be hard to get into a strong position. As you get better at the game and learn your own strengths and weaknesses, you can change what a strong position means to you. Tip number 5, use the corners. Whether you hit the ball back hard, soft, deep, or short, shooting at the angles is the best way to throw your opponent off balance and put them in a position to make a mistake. If you return your opponent's serve right back to them, you might be able to use a strong forehand on their third shot, which doesn't help you or your team score goals very much. Instead, look for the corners of the court and practice aiming at them over and over again. Tip number 6, make the other player use their backhand. Most pickleball players, if not all, like to use a forehand shot. The backhand is harder because it's harder to control where the ball goes. To use this to your advantage, practice returning your opponent's serve to their weak side. For a person who is right-handed, that is to their left. For a person who is left-handed, it's to their right. Tip number 7, learn how to do topspin and backspin. To get to the next level of pickleball, you need to learn how to change where your ball will go or how it will act when it hits the ground or another paddle. You can do both of these by giving your shot some spin. When the paddle goes over the ball and spins it forward as it goes back to your opponent, this is called topspin. The spinning on the ball makes it fall faster, so it'll bounce lower or hit your opponent's paddle in an odd way. Backspin is the other way around. For this shot, you put your paddle under the ball and make it spin back towards you. This makes the ball curve higher, making your opponent reach forward and lose their balance. Tip number 8, try not to be too predictable. It's important not always return serves the same way. Even if you are good at the high, slow, deep art, there will come a time in the match when you need to try something different. When your opponent is taking too long to go to the kitchen after their serve is the best time to do this. You can also watch to see if your opponent stands on the balls of his or her feet. You can make your power and distance stronger or weaker, or change the angle you're aiming at. Tip number 9, don't forget to have fun. Okay. It's not really a tip to help you get more money back, but you shouldn't forget that pickleball is a fun and competitive game. Many people want to go outside and stay active. Remember why you started playing the sport that we all love. So, what do you think about the third shot drop? Tell us in the comments. Also, don't forget to like this video and share it with your fellow picklers.